butterfly effect that's not so indirect. It's Rhyme and Reason 800.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why you're here.
Hey there, Tony here. Wow, 800. That's a big number. I just read a thing the other day, actually just a couple of days ago, that talked about how the vast majority of podcasts and podcasters don't last past maybe about 10 episodes, and many of them don't last even that long, much less 100 episodes, and much, much less 800 episodes. Now, granted, many of my episodes are, 10 minutes or less. So even if you split them into thirds, let's say that you added 3 together, it'd still have, 300 episodes anyway. And the vast majority of podcasters don't go that far. They just drop out. So the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm always inspired to talk about infinite truth, absolute truth, talk about Jesus, talk about music, talk about science. I love creation science. I love things that get you to thinking about why we're here and where we came from. One of those things is something you might have heard about called the butterfly effect and chaos theory. Have you heard of those things? They, I would say, originated in hopeless minds, those ideas. And you'll have to convince me I'm wrong, because otherwise I'm right about this. But just because those minds were hopeless doesn't mean there's not an infinite amount of reasons to remain hopeful. No, far from it. The butterfly effect doesn't account for truth. And truth provides the conclusion that this complex planet and all the life in it is not an accident. Brilliant and hope-filled minds have determined that overwhelming evidence points to a created universe. Let me say that again, because I think you should understand that I call them brilliant and hope-filled minds because they've determined that the overwhelming amount of evidence points to a created universe, a complex, designed universe that most definitely had an even more complex designer. Had to. And even if none of those brilliant minds or the rest of the world agreed with me, I'd still say we are all created beings. We're not accidents. And a completely different butterfly effect is one of the reasons I say that. Yeah, let's talk about that. The butterfly effect that I think is a better one. Have you ever watched a mama butterfly? She nurtures her little baby butterflies, and it's just it's not cute. No. You've never seen that. You know why? Because it doesn't happen. That's why. And that's because butterflies start out as an egg that becomes a larva, also known as a caterpillar. A caterpillar. Or you might say, if you're from the South, a caterpillar. Doesn't matter. Then that larva becomes a pupa or chrysalis or chrysalis. And that's where it really gets interesting. Enter Metamorpho, the shape-shifting superhero. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, let's just leave the lame DC comic book hero out of this, and let's get back to the real hero, okay? The pupa, chrysalis, goes through metamorphosis, and that's when it turns to mush inside its own cocoon. And that, my dear Watson, could never happen in a quintillion years without a process already coded into place. Because think about it now, how could mush function on its own, much less turn into a butterfly? Well, you're here, so I'll tell you how. God created life. And that includes butterflies, obviously. Did you know there's 750 species of butterflies in America? In just America? Yeah, that we know of. But that ain't nothing. There are over 17,000 species in the world. Come on now. Get excited. That's a whole lot of butter flying around. And they're beautiful. They're delicate creatures that I believe, and I think it is obvious to anyone who watches them, they reveal a glimpse, just a tiny glimpse, because they're tiny, into God's infinite creativity. But they're not the part of his creation he favors the most. As beautiful as they are, no, the creation that he favors the most, that'd be you. Yeah, you. Well, and me. And anyone who wants to live forever in a paradise where even the most beautiful creatures are just going to pale in comparison. His only requirement is based on love. God's love provided eternal life. It's a free gift. It's paid for by the one named Jesus. Hope you've heard of him. I know most of my readers and listeners have. It turns out Jesus went through his own metamorphosis in order to be able to pay off the whole world's debts. He did. He lived through eternity past as a spirit, the second part of the triune nature of God, God the Son. Now, you don't have to fully comprehend that any more than you can fully comprehend the metamorphosis of a butterfly. But when you can trust the truth of it, based on thousands of years of evidence, the reward is eternal. And your life will forever bask in the butterfly effect of God's love. I wrote a poem that said butterflies are for kids. I think they're for everybody, but I think kids enjoy them the most. It went like this. Those butterflies, they flutter by and never make a sound. Some soar up high into the sky, some just above the ground. They land on flowers in the yard and gently stretch their wings, and then they fold them up again to tend to other things. Some little kids with little nets run barefoot through the yard. They try to catch some butterflies, but find out that it's hard. Because butterflies fly up and down and back and forth so well, for kids who want to capture one, it's like a magic spell. They laugh and squeal in sheer delight. They nearly flip their lids. And that's why I'm quite sure that God made butterflies for kids. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rhyme and Reason podcast, brought to you by TonyFunderburk.com, which is an extension of me, Tony Funderburk. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me that you tune in wherever you do. If it's to the Rhyme and Reason podcast, or you've jumped on the Rhyme and Reason bandwagon, whichever one it is, or multiple, I don't take it for granted. I'm glad you're there. God bless you for being there. And until next time, this is Tony reminding you that life has rhyme and reason because God made you.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why you're here. Give your time and season to the one